guys, my name is Brooke Griffin. I'm one of the instructors here at Rosewood Art Center, and I teach the kids classes. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make these mason jar pencil holders. So we don't need too many materials for this one. What you're going to start with is a glass mason jar. These come in a lot of different shapes and sizes. It is totally okay with whatever you have at home. We're going to use acrylic paints as well. So I just have a few colors set out here that are the main palette of what I'm going to be doing today. So let's get started. All right. You're also going to want some paint brushes. There is no specific kind that you need, whatever you like. So if you look at the mason jars, not all of them will have this, but a good chunk of them will have this little circle here, or an oval, I should say. We're going to use that to make our little window, just like you see on these guys. So I'm going to pick a color to paint this in, and I don't have a green one yet, so I think I'm going to start with that. So the way I like to start this is to kind of shape around my little window. So I'm going to just paint around it to begin with. It's just going to give me a nice border that I can see a little bit more clearly, so when I'm painting the rest of it, I don't go over that edge, hopefully. And now that I've established my window, I'm going to paint the rest of the jar. And I'm just doing one solid color right now for the sake of simplicity. If you wanted to do stripes or something different than that, if you wanted to even do, you know, a split color, you could absolutely do that too. And as you can see, it's very transparent, meaning I can see through it still because it only has one layer of paint on it. This is okay. We don't need it to be perfect for the first pass of paint because we're going to layer over it at least one more time, maybe two. And also, since I like to have the top of it a different pop of color or even just white, I'm leaving that untouched right now. Now it gets a little trickier when you're trying to hold it and move it and not touch the wet paint. So what I actually do is I stick my hand up inside of it, and that way I am not getting any paint on myself, and I can easily twist it around to get different angles. And then I'm just painting nice broad strokes down the side. And here's a part where I'm going over the name and the other stuff that is on the jar, and it's kind of sticking up. So you might have to kind of like dot into those letters a little bit just to make sure you're fully covering that surface. So we're almost all the way around. I'm going to shift it a little bit on my hand so I'm not at such a weird angle. And continue from there. There's some parts that I missed, so just make sure you're taking a really good look at it all the way around. And you don't have to paint the bottom of the jar. That is optional, so if you're really feeling like you want to do that, go for it. So there. As you can see, it's not the best layer of paint, and it's not going to be until I finish my multiple layers. So right now it looks a little messy, but we have that clean little window right there. So the next part for this is going to be my pop of color for the upper rim. I guess since I have white for all of mine, I'm just going to stick with that. So I have a little bit of a theme going. And again, I'm going to be sticking my hand inside of it because I can't grab my jar now from any side. And I just have a plain white acrylic paint here. And this one you just have to be steady-handed to go around it. It's going to be the same as being a little transparent as our green layer, which is totally okay because we're going to go over it again. I am definitely getting paint on my hands, and I don't mind that so much. If you can be more careful than me, you might have better luck, but I tend to be a really messy artist. So that's our first layer of each color. You can also paint the inside of it too. It's not necessary. And I'm just going around right now and touching up the rim because it looks like I missed some parts on there. There we go. That's a bit better. So the last thing of this step is to just let it dry, which takes a little bit of time. I would say at least 15 to 20 minutes maybe. Acrylic paint does dry very quickly, but you don't want to rush it because wet paint on wet paint could make it peel off. So just make sure it's fully dry before you get to the next part. So I've put a second layer on the jar just to make the color more opaque, which means it's harder to see through. And it looks a little bit better. I think it could use maybe one more coat, but we're gonna go ahead and just dress it up a little. So there is an option to use a little bit of twine or yarn. It does not matter what kind it is. So I'm gonna take a piece of this twine, made it a little bit longer than I need it to be, just to make sure I have enough to make my bow. So I'm gonna tie it right around the top of this. I'm gonna make a little bow with it, just the same way you'd tie your shoes. And then there's a lot of extra string hanging down there, so I'm gonna go ahead and make these shorter. And just have a floppy little bow there. Now, since we have this cute little window in our jar, I want to put something inside of it so that it's not just a bunch of pencils in there. You can look in it and see something else. And you have different options. I'm going to use these little dry navy beans, but you could also use little pebbles or stones, whatever you would like. So I'm going to go ahead and pour some of these in here. Not very far, but I'm going to look at it from the front, make sure I can see the beans okay. I actually think I'd like to see a few more, so top it off. That's much better. And this way, I'm just going to borrow from this one. Your little pencils will just sit right in there. So this is just a cute little jar you can have on your desk and decorate it any way you want. It also doesn't have to be a plain color like this. So if you want to make a design on it, that is totally doable. I'm going to use one that I've mostly finished and show you guys how to do a little leaf pattern on it. So I'm going to go ahead and set this one aside with our beans in it. And I'm going to pull this one out. So instead of beans, this one actually has the stones. Very gently I can show you. They're very loud. But I very gently place the stones in there because I feel like if you just drop them in there, you might break your jar. So I've just got a few stones. And then not only do I have my window, but I've made these little patterns on it too. So I'm just going to paint one more on the blank side that's over here. And just like with the coat that was on the jar to start with, it is going to be a good idea after you paint these to let them dry and then do another coat. Mine are still pretty see-through, so I think that they could stand to have one more. That'll make them really bold and vibrant, and they'll stand out against the background better. So I'm just going to dip into my white acrylic ink here. And this is a super easy pattern to do. You're just going to make one long stem. As you can see, mine curves a little bit. Yours can be straight up and down. That's totally okay. So you're going to make these little shapes here to represent little leaves. And I don't exactly know what kind of plant I'm doing here. I guess it kind of reminds me of a fern leaf. But you can say it's whatever you want it to be. So each side that I do a leaf on, I'm putting it in the same place on the other side. Just very gently filling it in. I'm just doing these 3 sets of leaves. You can make it way more leafy if you'd like. And for the very top part, I just like to put a little leaf on top. I'm just touching up a couple places, but I am going to fully let this dry, go over it one more time with the white paint, and then it should be good to go. So, okay, and that is the little mason jar pencil holder. I hope you guys enjoyed making some homemade crafts today. If you want to learn to make more crafty stuff or take an art class, you can look up Rosewood Art Center online and register for a class.